Thank you for tuning in. Check out the Burnham Project on Substack. You can listen to Burnham podcasts, you can see videos, you can read my blog, and you can get it all sent straight into your inbox. You can also watch us on Rumble and on YouTube. We like Rumble better, just being totally candid with you. You can also listen to Burnham Podcast anywhere that you can find a podcast. We're all over the place. So when you get there, make sure that you like, subscribe, share, click the bell, push the Rumble button, whatever the service has to offer, just do that. Tell people about us and make sure that people know that Burnham Podcast is a thing and they should definitely listen to it. Thank you very much. Everybody knows one of those guys that wears a whole bunch of hats, does all kinds of things. Maybe he's a pastor. Maybe his name is iDie. Maybe folks call him dad. Lots of folks call him dad. 8, 9, 10 kids call him dad. He's a businessman. He's a minister. He's a whole bunch of things. But for the purposes of this episode, we're just going to call him Vince. Welcome to Burnham Podcast. I'm your host, Danny Burnham. The light's on now.
So that means it's on?
That means it's go time. It could be go time. He can cut this part out later if it's not any good.
Cool.
But we're going to go just for funsies because we're here and because the light's on. We've got a live studio audience tonight.
Man.
It's fantastic.
Sweet. So I can drink this. It's good to go?
It's good to go.
Right,
yeah,
man.
no, we're official now. You can dive into the official Burnham Podcast water.
Those cups are dope, man.
Those aren't they? Made right here in Rome, Georgia.
Oh, man. That's pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Right. So anyway, we're here with Vince Carr, right? Vince, why would people know you?
Man, I have no idea. I asked myself that question. No, I've traveled. I've done Christian hip hop. I did Christian hip hop for years. I took a break and now I'm getting back into it. I traveled and spoke for years and now I'm a pastor in Rockmart, Georgia at North Church of Rockmart.
Good deal.
Yeah.
I was just thinking earlier today, I was like, when did I meet Vince?
Oh, wow. It was during the, it was you and Quentin were doing the flag thing.
It was Rally for Christ.
Yeah, Rally for Christ.
Yeah.
That's it.
Was that the first time we met?
I think that was the first time we met.
Yeah.
And then you guys came, and then I did a few shirts for you guys, and then you did the event, and we came out to the event.
Yeah.
I believe that's the first time we met.
Might have been. That sounds right. I can't say that that's not right. Yeah. It's got to be. So that would have been 2015.
Man, I have no idea. It sounds right. Yeah, it was 2015 because that's right when we started our business and all that stuff. So, yeah.
So are you still doing the business?
I am. We don't do a lot of, we mainly do commercial stuff now. So when we met you guys, we had just started and we were doing, anyone that walked into the door, we're just trying to pay bills at that point.
Right.
So now we've signed contracts with commercial businesses and we're vendors and things like that. So our focus has changed. That way I can focus more on ministry and being a dad and being a pastor and things like that. So
what is the business?
So it's Meat and Potatoes Management Group. Right. And what we do is we focus on marketing. We do everything from T-shirts to business plans to websites to everything in between. And once I got old and I got tired of touring as much as I did, I said, let's find a real legitimate business. We don't have to be on the road. And that's what we do, man. And God really blesses. When we first started, we went in with a ministry mindset. And that was our thing. We said, everything we do, regardless if it's doing T-shirts, building websites, whatever, we want to bring glory to God. And God opened up a lot of doors. Our first contract was actually with a plumbing company. And when they came to us, I was like, this is going to be stupid. I was like, it's a plumbing company. I was like, how many shirts could they possibly need? Well, a little did I know, I treated him like he was like the president of the United States of America. Right. And he doesn't just do plumbing. They actually travel all over the country and they build apartments. So he was actually one of our first bigger contracts that we've ever had. His company does probably about $175 million profit every year plumbing. I was like,
so this wasn't Billy Bob's Plumbing Company.
No, this is big plumbing company, and they've been with us for years. And then we started working with Orphan Aid Liberia. We started doing their stuff. We do stuff with one of the biggest healthcare systems in the Southeast. So God opened up a lot of doors. And one of the things that I've always said is, regardless if I'm doing 5 shirts or 5,000, or a big website or a little website, I want to make sure that I always treat each customer like they matter, because they do. Because God opened up that door for me to be able to meet them. So I do that. That was a really long answer.
No, that's
really
we got
short.
time.
We got
man.
time. Okay, cool. I got a lot of long answers. I'm a
Drag your
pastor,
answers
man.
out.
I can drag it out.
We might be here all night between two pastors. It'd be
have 15 altar calls. We'll close
Right,
out about 15 times. That's what we do.
in closing, right? That's what we're all guilty of. In closing, and then we re-preach the sermon
Exactly.
again.
You know, if you got instruments behind you, play that a little bit, and then that's what I do. Find some random item in the room, use as an illustration. That's the type of pastor I am. So
yeah. No, you just you pull a rabbit out of your hat when you have to, and make things up as you don't make things up. That's bad.
No, that's
never make things up.
No. Danny does. I don't make things up.
I maybe on occasion, but so being a pastor, like this is your first pastorate, right?
It's my first. Well, so yes and no. I was associate pastor at a church.
Okay.
Actually, I was an associate pastor out here in Rome, Georgia, at Impact Church of Rome. We were like a hip hop church.
Yeah.
And we did that for a while, and then we felt like God called us all different directions.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife and I, we started a church. I was a youth pastor before then. We started a church called Relevant Church, but with me touring and everything, I couldn't be here to actually pastor a church.
Right.
I mean, I know it sounds easy to pastor church, but if you're not there,
it's super easy.
It's really hard. But I actually, before I became a pastor, I said, I will never be a pastor because
me too.
That's what my mindset was like. That's where pastors, like people in ministry, go to like die.
Yeah,
so I was like, I don't want to be a pastor. But I actually went to this church, man, and I actually went to go speak, and they said, will you be a pastor? And I went to God, and I was like, hey, I'm going to put 5 petitions before you, and if you answer this, man, I know it's you.
Yeah.
Within a week, they were answering. I was like, all right, so can we try it again? Like, can we run it back? But I've been a pastor for 5 years, man. It's been a roller coaster, especially with COVID and all the other craziness, man.
Well, that's kind of, we were talking beforehand. That's where we came from. You guys, you picked up an existing church,
mm-hmm.
and then you navigated through that. What was that like?
So it was so weird because when I actually started pastoring our church, it was going through like a church split at that moment. So they were actually a church that was about to close down, and there was a handful of members that said, we're not going to close down. We're going to keep our doors open. So when I came in, they're like, hey, you want to pastor our church? I said, no, God, well, if it's your will, make it happen. I went in, and then I found out that there was a church split, which was ta-da, So we built from ground zero. When we first came, there's probably like 7 to 11 people, families, or 7 to 11 people there. And we built and built and built, and we outgrew our building. In my interview to become the pastor, I actually said to them, I was like, I want to outgrow the building we're in within a year. And 6 months later, people just came, and it was great. And then COVID hit. Like, we got a new building. We started building. We're talking about doing 2 services. And then, COVID just, I don't know, man. It was weird.
It was, the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah, man. In seminary, they don't teach you that stuff. They're not like, hey, pandemic, virus, doors shut. So it was weird navigating because when you're a hands-on pastor, like we're very hands-on. We hang out with our church members. We're there with them and their victories and their losses and their whatever. And then all of a sudden, the world tells you to stay 6 feet apart. It's hard on me as a pastor, but it was hard on our congregation because, I can pastor from a distance, but it's not the same when I'm there with you. Yeah. And at that moment in time, man, I was afraid of COVID because like everything said, hey, if you're overweight and if you're black, you're going to die. And I was both. So I was like, stay away from me,
Yeah.
But we decided to go ahead and do the parking lot service thing, man. We did that twice, and I was like, this ain't working. Yeah. People were getting sunburnt, man. I was like, I don't care what happens. We're going to open our door. And it was great, man. We were doing good until we did a concert, and I threw water on everybody and gave a bunch of people COVID.
Really?
I really did, man.
They let you stay after that.
I mean, they're not going to get rid of me. So, but my wife, she had her gallbladder removed. Mm-hmm. And while at the hospital, we were at the hospital she works at, I was taking my mask off and all that kind of stuff. And I think I contracted it there, but I was doing shows. We had about 4 shows that weekend. And we had rehearsals all week, and my throat was hurting, and I was tired. But I didn't think anything. I was like, I'm old, starting to do these concert things, trying to act like I'm young again. And so I went out, did the show, like I do at most of my shows, I took the last bottle. The song is really hyped. Threw it out in the crowd. That was on a Saturday. Monday, my son woke up with a 103.7 temp. So, and then it just kept following. My wife was like, "It's not your fault. You're good." Until she lost her taste and smell. Then it became my fault.
Right. It's on you then.
Yeah.
I got it, and I didn't know I had it for several days. It wasn't that bad. I didn't have a really bad case of it, but I was so sore and tired.
Yeah.
Right.
Man.
But I was training jiu-jitsu a lot at the time. I was always sore and tired. Yeah. The difference was I had a little scratch in my throat and had a cough. And
exactly.
I was like, well, every season's allergy season in Georgia, right?
Exactly.
These days, a cough or a sneeze turns into like the Salem witch trials. But that was where I was at for like 4 days. And finally, Jessica was like, "You need to get tested." And she worked in a nursing home, and she was like, "Come up here and I'll test you."
Yeah.
So I'm dying. I get in the car. I really don't feel good. I'm tired and I'm beat up. And by the time I got there, I felt fine.
Oh, man.
I was good. Like, my nose cleared up, scratchy throat was gone. Like, and this is like a 2-mile drive. Like, this is not a long. So I get there and I test. The test comes back negative. I was like, man, I'm sure that I was positive still that I had. And I had it later and tested positive later, a year later. Yeah. But, I didn't get a positive test, but I'm sure looking back, that's what it was.
You probably had it, man. We caught it. We've had it like 4 times. I wear it as a badge of honor. So we survived COVID 4 times, but we've had it a couple times. And, when I had it the first time, I didn't know I had it. But then after everyone else got it, it was like, I'm sure I had it.
Right.
And then we have 7 people in our house. So we catch COVID, it's 21 days out.
Everybody's, yeah.
Exactly, man. So I was like, I'm ready to go back to pastoring. I'm ready to go preach again. So I tested, and that test lit up like a Christmas tree. And my wife was like, "Well, now that you test, you got to quarantine."
Right.
And I was like, "All right, cool. This can't be that hard." I was at home for like 15 minutes. I was like, "I can't do it, man. The walls are closing in." Man, who you telling me? So I did what any good American would do. I went to Walmart because I was like, everybody's got COVID at Walmart,
right,
bro.
Yeah.
Like everybody, cashiers.
Just a big old petri dish.
Yeah, exactly, bro. I was like, you know what? They make me bag my own groceries. I'm giving them COVID. I was like,
that's fair.
Yeah, tit for tat, right? But it was a great experience having COVID. I learned a lot about my kids and learned a lot about life, and just, I don't know, man. I did a lot of praying. I did a whole lot of praying because, like I said, I was scared, but I don't even think I was scared of COVID, but I was really, honestly, truthfully, going back to the pastor thing, I was scared because I didn't know what was going to happen to our church, I was like, man, we're not having service, and as a pastor, if people aren't giving, then we can't keep the doors open, you know. We have a whole lot of faith, but Georgia Power doesn't care how much faith we have. They want dollar bills. But it's one of those things where it was so weird because during COVID, man, people gave and gave and gave and gave. Yeah. And I don't know if they're afraid they're going to die or what, but, it was just amazing watching God work. And, and like we did online prayer meetings and we were able to see people, jump on board and people like, pray for this person. They're going through this. And we did online service. Easter service, I was like in a button down up top and I was in shorts on the bottom. Finally, I just stood up and was like, guys, I'm in my pajama pants and I'm in the button. I was like, listen, because I'm going to stand up at some point. You're not going to see it. But I think it helped grow me as a person and a pastor because it made me realize that there may come a time where we won't have the luxury of a building and we still have to be able to reach people. So, it made me say, Vince, how are you going to reach people without a pulpit and a platform? Yeah. And I had to learn that church is bigger than church as we know it, So as a pastor, I've learned to love people without a 5-point sermon and show them Jesus without a 5-point sermon, which is, it's been pretty cool, man. Yeah. It's been pretty awesome.
Well, that time period brought out our creativity, hopefully. Yeah. It should have. Because we were at a point, my brother and I were talking about this at one point, time didn't matter.
No.
If you had a job that you couldn't go to anymore, it didn't matter what time it was.
Exactly.
Because you sleep whenever, wake up whenever, write a 1,000-page blog, start a podcast, or whatever you wanted to do. Yeah. And it just didn't matter. So a lot of people were coming up with a lot of ways to reach out or to, I don't know, I think probably some people were building ramparts and hiding themselves, but that was a time of a real Renaissance type of experience where there was nothing else to do but come up with cool stuff to do.
Man, it was weird, man. You know, and like I told my wife, I was like, this is going to be awesome because I was like, I'm going to be at home, like watching all the Netflix shows. But then I saw myself gravitating towards like the news and numbers and things like that, man. And the more I watched that, like the more fear set in. But then I eventually, it was like I was reading my devotion one day and God basically was like, do you trust me more than a number? And I sat there, I was like, well, you know, I see this number. Where are you? No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that. But I was like, I see, you know, I'm seeing this number. But it wasn't until I got away from watching the news and looking at the numbers and things like that. Because my wife would come home and I would like literally hit her up with Lysol, like, because she's a nurse, bro. And she was at, you know, she was at the ER and I was like, you have any COVID patients? And she was like, well, and she, nothing else had to spraying her like that,
right,
you know.
Right.
But once I finally got away from the numbers and the chaos and the fear, it was like, okay, we're going to be fine. We're going to make it through this thing. And once I caught it, I was like, oh, me and COVID, we can kick it. I'm good with that, bro. You know, whatever. A little scratchy throat, no smell, no taste. I'm good. So then I caught it 4 other times. And, you know.
We hit the wife lottery, though. Both of us did because we both married nurses. So we can get through those times.
Exactly. We've had everything under the sun. So, I mean, COVID's just another, like,
they just
you know.
bring you home to us. But then they take care of us and it all sorts out.
Your wife takes care of you?
Yeah, I have to say, yeah.
Bruh, how does that feel like?
Rena's gonna see this, man.
I mean, she knows, bro. She knows. she knows.
I say she takes care of me when the kids are not climbing up her leg, or breaking something, or running the bathtub over. You know. So so most of the time, she's not taking care of me, as it turns out.
Man,
now that I really think about it.
Jessica's gonna see this. You know?
I know. Well, I made a podcast one time about how she doesn't listen to my podcast.
Oh, did she listen to it?
I don't know if she ever did.
You should ask her.
It was some real Proverbs 31 stuff in there.
Was it really?
Yeah, it was great. It wasn't like my wife doesn't listen to my podcast. It sounded that way.
Yeah.
And that's what we call the hook, right? So now you got to find out what it's about. But it was about how while I'm recording the podcast in the kitchen, she's like holding the kids down in the living room so they don't make any noise, you know, stuff like that.
Man, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, it was cool.
My wife will listen to that first line and be like, you know what? I'm mad at you. And then she wouldn't even listen to the rest.
So if you said something really sweet right now, she's already dialed out.
I mean, she already dialed out. She's like, you say I don't take care of him. I always take care of him. So
there's something good on Netflix.
Exactly. Man.
So we survived COVID, and your church survived COVID.
We did.
And you're better now than you were?
As far as me personally?
The church.
Well, the church is, I think our numbers went down, of course.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of new families and a lot of new faces. And the one thing that I think it really taught us, the church, period, even our new members, is the excitement of rebuilding. You know, because when you walk into a church that's already established, then it's so easy for you to get lost in the crowd and just become like somebody that's just sitting there. So I would say, like, number wise, of course we're down, but like, you know, people
everybody
that are
is
just
though. Everybody.
I mean, I read Gallup did a report in 2021 where they said we are 50%. The church is dying at a 50% rate. And then they said that every year after that, there was another report that said every year from 2020 up until now, there's a 3% loss. So I did this whole thing the other day with our church, and I was like, think about this, guys. Out of the 10 people that you know, 2 of them were going to church before 2021, and now 1 of them have left. So out of 10 people, only 1 person stays. And the other startling thing was, like, in America, only 20% of America goes to church, you know.
In spite of, 70%?
Exactly.
Claiming they're Christians?
Yeah, man. And that's a scary number. So when people came in, you know, we really pushed that. We pushed that there's a need for people needing Jesus.
Right.
And so with our new people, man, it's dope. I would say, we're in a much better place with new people and new faces. Not saying I don't love the people that were there before.
Right, of course.
Because they may be watching and be like, you know, forget me. But they were great people. But I think it really helped, especially our leadership team. We're more rooted. You know, like Quentin, he's part of our leadership team. And, you know, even I think we were getting so lax knowing that, okay, this Sunday we're going to at least have 100, 115 people, you know. Now we're like, okay, what can we do to go out there and let people know that we're here and let people know that Jesus is real? So it forced us, like I think you said it best, it forced us to be creative in the way that we approach ministry and people and Jesus. So
those numbers are scary, though.
they really are.
That's what I remember when we were first starting as a church, and somebody asked me. It was funny. The guy that asked me, he said, "Well, why does Rome, Georgia need one more church?" You know, I drive past 15 churches. We drive 3 miles to come here.
Yeah.
And I drive past, I think, 7 churches? And I could drive the same distance in another direction and pass 7 more.
Wow.
But he's like, so why do we need one more church in Rome, Georgia? I said, well, where do you go to church? And he was like, well, I don't go to church. I was like, okay. All right.
That's why we need one more church.
Because there's somebody else that's looking for a church.
Exactly, man.
Or maybe not. But if we do something different than a lot of other churches do. So maybe we're what they're looking for instead of some other church, or maybe some other church is not what we are. And
yeah, man.
That's why we have different things though, right? We do things differently. And
absolutely, man. We have so many around our church. We have, I think, like 4 churches. Yeah. And then we have people, like our members go there, they're planted there, and tell everyone that those churches are cults that come to our church. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm actually connected with all the local pastors, man. We love all of our local pastors.
That's how it should be, man.
Yeah, man. And that's like when I first moved to Rockmart, like it's so weird because when I got the pastor job at Rockmart, it was like job offers came in. I actually got a job for like $150,000 to pastor church in a house. And I was like, man, then I got a youth pastor job down in Florida for like $75,000. And I was like, man, I should take this. But God was like, don't you dare do it.
Yeah,
And you know, and I talked to my wife, and my wife's like, no, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And we have stayed where we are. And it has been a blessing. And, you know, when I became a pastor, and I don't know if you've had this, but man, we had a lot of battles that hit us, man. A lot of battles. Within like 3 weeks of us becoming a pastor, my daughter, she ended up getting like a 6-centimeter cyst on her hip and on the nerve on her hip. She has PCOS, and she couldn't walk. And they were testing her for like multiple sclerosis and all this other stuff. And there was months where we didn't know what was going on, man. Yeah. And our church prayed us through every single moment. And I sit there and I'm like, if we would have left, what would have happened, you know?
Yeah.
And not just our church, but we had other local pastors in the community that found out, man, and they prayed us through it. And then in Rockmart, you know, there is a lot of people don't know, but there's a lot of violence. There's a lot of gangs in Rockmart and a lot of drug use. And there was a shooting that happened in like this little community where things happen, you know. But all the pastors pulled together, all the local pastors, and went out and talked to the community, reached out to the community.
That's awesome.
Yeah, dude. So it's really dope. So yeah, we definitely need more churches. I mean, because even if there was a study done where they said if you took every church, filled it to the brim, you still wouldn't have enough seats for all the people in your community.
Yeah.
And that's the truth, man. And the reality is that not everyone's going to like my church, and everyone's going to like the other church. Right. If they don't like my church, then they're filthy, dirty sinners, and we don't want them there anyway. But I just said on your podcast, you just lost like, he's going to edit that out. But
if you don't like Vince's church, you can come to ours.
But I think variety is great, man. I think it's really cool because I connect with so many other churches, especially doing music. I've seen so many churches, and I've experienced so many churches and so many different vibes, and you know. And I would say that I've never been to any church that's the exact same.
Right.
But they've all brought some value to my life. And that's why we need more churches, man.
Yeah.
We need more Danny Burnhams out here doing their thing.
I mean, I don't know how I got talked into this.
It was Jesus.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been through it, you know, it was Jesus.
Yeah, because it wasn't, I never would have thought, I would like to pastor a church. Like, I never would have pursued that.
No one pursues it.
It pursued me.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about how our church started, during COVID, and there was another guy that was leading the group, right? He would come in and preach every Sunday, and he was a Presbyterian pastor.
Wow.
He got a job, moved to South Carolina we started meeting in April of 20, and then 1st of May, he's gone.
What?
So, and there's other Presbyterians that, they won't have a service unless somebody is there that's ordained and can do the call to worship and all this stuff.
Yeah.
So they're like, well, who's it going to be next week? And I was like, you're ordained. And I was like, I'm Baptist. I don't know what you want from me. But they were like, we don't care. Just be the guy. So I was like, okay. So I started preaching to that group.
What?
And then later on, we became Rome Reformed Church. So that's how I became a pastor.
That's cool. Now, you guys started in a hotel, right?
Yeah, when we first met as Rome Reformed Church, we met in a hotel.
Man.
When we first started gathering during COVID, it was in a bar around the corner.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we were meeting in a meeting room at a hotel, and then we moved into this illustrious, beautiful,
this is pretty dope,
gajillion-dollar sanctuary, and
man, I like it. I think it's pretty cool.
I like it. It's not ideal. It's not the place that I would have said some time ago, but like, I bet it'd be cool to have church in there, but it's been great for us.
Man, I don't think anyone ever plans on having church in a certain building.
Yeah.
And then it just happens. When we actually got our church, I was going for a much smaller facility around the corner that would have cost us a lot more money. And God opened up a door where the guy, funny story, we went to go buy our building. We were meeting the owner of the building. And I had this number in my mind because it's an old bank. And then it turned to City Hall. And I was like, I'm going to offer him, and I hope he's not watching this. I don't think he will be. But I was going to offer him like $200,000 and a bunch of tax write-offs.
Right.
And we sat at this thing, and I opened up my iPad, man, and he was like, well, I'm going to give you my number, and then we can talk. And, if you don't like it or whatever, he was like, I'm going to give you the building. He told us how he's been watching us and whatever. So I'm going to give it to you for $72,000 and 6% interest rate. And I was like, okay. And he was like, what's your numbers? I was like, what numbers? And I just shut my eyes. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, bro. I don't have numbers.
Those are my numbers.
That works.
You just said them.
But Rockmart is such a small town, man. And this is how God works, because I never expected to get this building. So he was like, let's shake hands and call it a day. And that's just the way Rockmart works. It's like small town USA, which is pretty dope. But I was like, can we get an attorney? Like, can we get some paperwork or something?
Make this official.
So we prayed, man, and a lady in our church, she's a broker, and her attorney actually wrote up all of our paperwork for free. And
That's awesome.
We went into the church, man, and we had contractors and plumbers and electricians, man, and they came through and they built the church right before Easter Sunday. We were there to 3:00 in the morning. Ooh. And then I went home. I got a couple hours of sleep, and I preached the next morning. I don't even know what I said. I could have said
there.
Santa Claus came out of the tomb. I don't know what I said, bro. But it was a full house, and God has been doing some cool things ever since that day, man.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's been really awesome. But
so, what is your church is called North Church?
Yes.
What's the significance?
I have no idea. It was called that when I got. No, I'm just kidding. I really don't know. But the way that we've always looked at it was pointing people north, pointing people towards Christ.
Yeah.
Our motto is we love God, which implores us to love people.
Yeah.
When I first came there, the mantra, vision, or whatever was love God, love people. But one of the things that we've always said is that we want to be labeled as different. And I want us to be labeled as different because I don't want us to look like your typical church. I want us to look like heaven.
Yeah.
I want to see broken people, black people, white people, Hispanic people, Asian people. And when I first got there, man, I preached and I was tired. We had taken the kids to Extreme Winter, and I stood on the stage and I said, well, guys, we look like a box of chalk, and I don't like it. And my wife just held her head down like, oh, my goodness.
We're fired.
So, yeah. So I was like, we need Hispanic people and black people. Yeah. And ironically enough, man, my daughter just spilled a can. You good? Okay.
All good.
Ironically enough, man, shortly after that, we actually got some black couples, and then we got an Asian person, and then we got Hispanic people, and I'm like, dude, we're the melting pot of Rockmart. This is dope.
That's awesome.
And we have pastors asking us like, how did you do it? And
that's what I was about to ask you. Was it?
I don't know, man. I don't know. Like it's one of those. I think I just prayed for it. Like I genuinely went to God, and I was like, I want us to have some diversity because I don't want anyone to walk into a building and feel like they don't belong.
Right.
I preached a message entitled "Elephant in the Room," and it was all about race.
Yeah.
And and I asked my congregation a very scary question. I asked them a couple, but I asked them. I said, "How many of you would say that you're not racist?" And everyone raised their hand. Everybody, of course. Everybody was like, yeah, except for one person. I was like, whoa, wasn't expecting that.
Put your hand up.
So, can you please, you're not helping my sermon. So, but then I started asking, I was like, how many of you have walked out of a church because no one looked like you? And there was hands that went up, and I said, how many of you have ever made a racist comment or made a racist joke? And then more hands went up. And then I said, this is why we prayed for our church to look like this.
Yeah.
So that you can see what heaven's going to look like. Heaven's not going to look like the perfect church. It's not going to look like your perfect vision of what a Christian should look like. It's going to be a coloring box of people from different backgrounds. So, man, we prayed about it, and God made it happen. That was my prayer. God, make us a coloring box, man. I want black, white, pink, red, yellow, purple. I want it all, man.
Yeah.
And we've had some characters in our church.
Yeah,
you know, I got stories for days.
People, man.
Yeah.
You get people, bring a crowd of people in there, and they do people stuff.
I like that,
And
people stuff. Because normally I say stupid stuff, but people stuff sounds more pastorally like.
Yeah.
Man.
I've learned that in my short time as a pastor. People stuff.
People stuff. Yeah. Man, I'm going to use that. People. I like that. I got a couple people I got to text and say, stop doing people stuff. So I got to hit them up.
Take a break so you can send those out.
Yeah.
But that's awesome, though, that you're able to diversify a church.
Yeah.
Because sadly, Sunday is the most segregated day of the week.
It is.
In churches, you know, because we work with black people and white people and Asian people, you know, but come Sunday, you go to your place and I go to mine.
Exactly.
And we don't so much as get together and have a cookout.
Yeah.
You know? And it's, so I don't know. That's always been something that I struggle with. Like, why is it like that? We used to have a black church across the street from, can I say black church? Is that a thing?
I don't know.
So it's a black church across the street from our white church.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't know anybody that went to church there.
Yeah.
And they didn't know anybody that went to church with us. And it just wasn't, we didn't serve the kingdom together.
Exactly.
We would do separate mission work, even within the community. We didn't work with them. But we separate ourselves on Sundays.
Yeah. It's scary too, man, because the thing is, like 1 John 4, you know, where the evangelist John, he talks about how can you say you have God if you don't love your neighbor? Yeah. And then he goes on and he's like, you know, you've seen your neighbor, but you've never seen God. And that was one of the scriptures that really gut punched me, because I'm like, I'm not racist, but I'm always like, you know, this person or that person, like I'll be like, they probably put raisins in their potato salad because they're white, you know, or like they can cook real good because they're black, you know. Yeah. But like the reality is, like, we don't think those things are like racist statements, and they are.
Right.
And the devil takes like those little tiny things and he expands on them. And it took me a while to realize that, Vince, you've got to change that so that God can change your heart.
Yeah.
And then I finally started saying, you know what? They're not black, white, Hispanic, Asian, da-da-da-da-da. I still look at color because I think that's a beautiful thing that God created.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I stopped classifying people in their character based on the tone of their skin. And I started looking at their lives and their character, and based on that, I'm like, either this person needs Jesus or this person has him, and how can I help them grow closer?
That's it, right? There's two kinds of people.
That's it, man. That's it. The saved and the unsaved. And the unsaved, man, I'm going to love them just like I do the saved, because I want them to see Christ the same way that I see him. So
that's the way it should be.
Absolutely.
You should just see, you know, like I said, those two kinds of people, and it don't matter how much money you make or what your skin looks like. Vody Bacham made a great point about that, and appreciating your skin and somebody else's. And I try to not get wrapped up in that, but he made such a great point that you have to acknowledge it. Like, God wouldn't have made us look the way we do if it wasn't important on some level. You know, it's who we are. It's our uniqueness, and we identify as believers. Right? That's our identity. It's in Christ.
Exactly.
But there's something to this too. Like, we're supposed to look the way we do, and there's a purpose there, and we're beautiful the way that he made us, because he made us in his image.
Yeah, I'm extra beautiful. He made me like extremely in his image. I always tell people I'm very
all
beautiful.
The way,
all the way. Like, he was like, "This is my twin." No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I think that's important, man, and that's why I tell our church, man, like the diversity of people is like the beautiful kaleidoscope of God's grace, mercy, power, divinity, and if we miss that, you know, we miss it all. Because, you know, I had a church member that said to me, "I'm colorblind." I was like, "No, you're not."
No, stop.
I was like,
stop.
If someone robbed you and the police said what they look like, you'd be like, white guy, black guy, Asian guy, purple guy, 6 foot tall. Like, you're not colorblind then, so don't pretend like you're colorblind now.
No.
I think that colorblind is like one of those cop-outs that we use to not acknowledge the fact that there's diversity in people.
Yeah.
But I think that when you stop and you look at the diversity, you can look at the beauty of God. And once you stop and look at it like it's the beauty of God, then you start to see the beauty of the person behind the color. So that's one of the things we preach constantly from the pulpit. And I always make jokes about race. I make people uncomfortable at our church about race all the time, man. Like I tell people, like, in case you guys didn't know, my wife's white. And they're like, what? And I'm like, oh, you're surprised too, right? So I just make jokes like that because I feel like if we would not make it some type of shameful thing to talk about race, then I feel like people would sort of kind of be more open to talk about it. Especially like when I used to do music and tour a lot, we did shows with black churches, white churches, Hispanic churches, mixed churches, whatever.
Yeah.
And it was so cool just being able to see people clap and dance in unison and just praise God for a moment in time and forget about that the person next to you was white, black, male, female, went to their church, didn't go to their church. We were just all there to see God in a special way at that moment in time.
Yeah.
So.
That's the way it should be, man. That's the way. But it's not. You cheat somebody by being colorblind, right? I cheat you out of part of who you are.
Yeah.
And it's lazy to say I'm colorblind.
Yeah.
And you're not. Like
I'm
you
not
said.
colorblind. You're like what? Black? Like
am I black? I don't know. It depends on whether or not you're watching this or just listening to the audio.
Nah, Danny, I'm sure with the audio they can still tell you're not black, bro. So,
is that a racist joke about
no, absolutely. I don't make those, Danny. I don't make those at all, bro.
So I talk to pastors a lot with my day job.
Yeah.
Call them all over the country, and they always. I'll talk to a guy in Washington State, or especially up in the Northeast, somebody in Vermont or New Hampshire, and they're like, "You're not from my area, are you?" And they try to get around to like, "Where are you from?" I'm in Northwest Georgia, and then they all know where Berry College is. But yeah, they peg my accent pretty quick.
Man, this lady, my kid's teacher, was like, "You're not from here, are you?" And I was like, "What the heck does that mean?" She was like, "You're from up north," and I was like, "No. I did radio for like 7 years, and when I did radio, they're like, you can't talk like you're from the South," and I was like, "What the heck does that? We're in the South, bro. Like, how do I stop talking like from the South?" But once I got off the radio, I was like, I want to go back to sounding country. So I started listening to Garth Brooks more because I
bring it out of you,
man. Bring it on out. I'm like, go over yonder and get that there, So I wanted to get back to who I was, and but accents are, accents, colors, all that stuff. It's crazy. That makes sense. But I do like the South. I don't think I could ever go up north.
You're from around here, though,
I'm
right?
from Tennessee. I'm a Tennessee boy.
Yeah.
Born, raised.
Got your
all
Titans hat on?
Man, exactly. Greatest team in the NFL. So
I couldn't tell you. I'll take your word for it. Go Titans, whatever.
Yeah, man. You're college only, right?
Well, I used to be, and I just got tired of them and their farce of a postseason system.
Yeah.
And not to mention, like, I watched the NFL playoffs last year.
They were a joke, man.
Well, but the football was better.
Yeah.
Those guys are better football players.
They are.
I don't watch minor league baseball on TV. I want to watch baseball. I watch the big leagues. You want to watch the best guys doing it.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a moment for me. And I'm getting into the NFL.
Yeah.
Where I used to be a huge football fan, and I just watched anything that was on.
Right.
And like I said, I got sick of college ball, and the NFL is more appealing to me now because there's a way that you qualify for the postseason, and then they determine a champion on the field. It's the craziest thing ever.
Yeah.
So I've kind of quit watching college ball.
Man.
I watch my brother's games.
Right.
Because he's a college coach. I'm obligated.
Right.
But by the way, Peru State, you need to fix your live stream. It's awful. There's no excuse in this day and age.
Yeah, fix it.
Yeah.
Like Danny said.
But it's, I don't know. So I've kind of transitioned the program, and I'm catching up on who's who. But so I'll take your word for it that the Titans are the best.
Just take my word. I'm a pastor. I can't lie.
That's fair.
Danny, your face looked at me like he's lying. I saw it.
Asia, where you at on this? Is that the real deal? Maybe.
Am I a liar, Asia? Nope. I told you I'm a pastor. I can't lie, Danny.
Can't do it.
It's
Cannot do it.
I can try.
I don't know. There's some dudes out there that call themselves pastor that do it every Sunday.
I mean, see, they're lying by calling themselves pastors.
That's right off the bat.
There you go.
Oh, bless their hearts.
That's that Southern thing, man.
Yeah, bless his heart.
Oh, my
Lord
word.
help him.
Man.
But you're the real deal. You're an actual pastor in an actual church.
I am, man. I am. You're not. I always say you're not a pastor until you've cleaned a toilet. Like, if you've never cleaned a toilet, you can't call yourself a pastor, bro.
Yeah.
Or if you've never sanded a wall, can't call yourself a pastor.
Yeah.
Nope.
Well, you're the pastor. You're the guy that gets up in front of the church and talks
Yeah,
on Sunday.
yeah.
You're the counselor. You're all the things. You're the plumber. You're the
Yes.
electrician.
Yeah.
You're the janitor. All the things.
Yeah.
And not that that's your only job, but I saw a pastor or I don't know if the guy was even a pastor, on Twitter the other day, and I wanted to fight this guy.
Man.
Because he says, what is it? If you're still cleaning the toilets in your church, you're not fit for ministry.
What?
And I was like, bro, we're talking about Jesus washing people's feet.
Exactly. Right before Christ did one of the biggest, like the stamp on his ministry, he washed his disciples' feet, man.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
It doesn't
That's
get
crazy.
any more. I would clean, I don't know, we're on Broad Street in downtown Rome right now, and I'd clean every toilet on this street before I would wash somebody's feet.
Brother, who you
Like,
telling?
I mean, I would if God compelled me to wash some feet. Like, we got to
He got
do that.
right on the wall.
Yeah, no, it's got to be light coming down from heaven, that kind of thing. I'll clean all the toilets. I don't want to wash anybody's feet.
Every toilet.
Yeah.
After Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, right.
All of them, bro. All of them. Every single toilet, man. I did a sermon illustration where I was like, I'm going to wash this guy's feet. And, man, he took his, like, I felt God telling me to do this. And he took his shoes off, and I was like, Jesus, are you sure this is what you want me to do? Like, you don't have anything else? Like, I can't just talk about it? Man, and I washed his feet, and I tell you, it was like a surgical scrub after I got done. I was just like, Jesus, I'm never doing this again. I don't know why you had me do this.
It was a very important illustration. I'm glad it's over.
Yeah, I was trying to find my wife. She was nowhere to be found. And I was like, I'm going to wash your feet, because I thought he looked like an average person.
Yeah.
Man, his toes needed an anointing or something, bro. They were broken.
Had some David Goggins feet.
Man, they were bad. Like, really. Like, they were looking at me like, don't touch me. And I was like, I don't want to touch you. But
I would rather not.
Jesus is making me touch you, so I'm going to touch you. But I've cleaned so many toilets, man. And like, I've answered the phone in the middle of the night. Being a pastor is one of those things where, like, my buddy said it best. He does worship music. He was like, you're a pastor. You have to like people. And I was like, and you have to love people. And I was like, well, number one, I'm not that type of pastor. Like, I'm not. Let's establish some things first and foremost. But I feel I know because I love God, I have to. So, like, you get those calls where you really don't want to do something, or like you get those calls where someone's like, I really need your help, and you help them, and then like all of a sudden you see that they're being wasteful with whatever you've helped them with, and then you can't be like, why'd you do that, or go take it back. You just have to be like, all right, God, you had me do it for a reason. And it's crazy. So I couldn't imagine like a real bona fide pastor being like, if you can't clean toilets, you're not fit for ministry. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was his deal though. And I don't know why you would like what train of thought arrives at that station. I don't understand.
I don't know. It's a bad train.
And I think his idea was that you need to spend time and study, which is great.
Man,
spend time and study, because you got to talk on Sunday, and if we get it wrong, it's bad.
Oh yeah.
So you do what you got to do, but at the same time, you got to have that servant heart.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you absolutely. And I think that if you don't have it, then you won't know how to reach people, because the only thing that allows me or compels me to pour into people is a servant's heart. Because if it was Vince, it wouldn't happen, bro. I'm at the hospital. I pray to God they give you what you need. And they hang the phone up. Or, like me and my buddy Jay, we always joking is like, I'm just going to tell him this Sunday, go outside, find Jesus on your own. He's out there somewhere. Sometimes I want to say that. But my servant's heart, man, it compels me, because you're a pastor, and if we're being honest, and I've said it from the pulpit, there's some Sundays I just don't want to be at church. And there's some Sundays I just don't want to preach a sermon. But my servant's heart says, I know these people need Jesus, so I'm going to give them as much Jesus as I have, man, as much as I have. So that's the way I am. Yeah.
Well, there's the Sundays that you don't feel like getting up, going to church, preaching a sermon. There's Tuesdays that you don't feel like studying, or praying, or whatever, getting ready.
I pray. I'm like, God, please pass this cup from me.
Yeah.
That's no, just kidding. My church is going to be like, why? Why?
They know you by this point, though,
man. They
right?
absolutely do.
They
would be like
stuck with you.
Yeah, man. They told me if I ever come to church in like a suit and tie, they're like, what's wrong? What happened? So they know who I am, man.
I just recently started tucking my shirt in.
Oh wow,
that became a thing.
How's that work out for you?
It's okay. It helps with the lapel mic, the wire. Yeah, hold it all in place because otherwise it just kind of the wires going everywhere and it's terrible. But yeah, that's a recent thing.
I can't do it, brother. I can't. I wore a Golden Girls shirt when Easter. Like, yeah, I'm that guy. That's me, bro. I'm that passionate. It was Mother's Day. I wore a Golden Girls shirt. Every Sunday I walk around with the Golden Girls mug that says, laugh and eat cute cheesecake.
Yeah.
I'm that guy. It's
that's not wrong though. It's not wrong. It wouldn't be wrong for me to do it in here. You look at guys like John the Baptist. That's who I always look at. Well, what if he was here today? What would he be wearing?
Man,
Jordans. Right.
Jeans,
and it shouldn't be a distraction.
It shouldn't be.
Right. I can't get up on the stage and have on a shirt with a swear word on it, or something like that's gonna just be like, what's he wearing more so than what's he saying?
Yeah, man.
But
I mean,
I don't think he cares that much.
No, I don't think he does. I think, like you said, as long as you're not a distraction, I think you're good. Speaking of swear word, you want to hear a funny story? Okay, I'm telling you.
Shoot it at me.
So, I was preaching a sermon. Okay, and I'm trying to find the right way to say it. So I was saying I yell at my kids because they put dishes when they wash dishes. Because our dishwasher broke. It's like our third dishwasher. Like, I'm not buying another dishwasher. Why do I keep breaking the dishwasher?
Just wash the dishes.
So I was like, just wash it. When I was old school, I was the dishwasher back in the day, bro. So they took the dishes, they put them on a towel. So I was telling this story in church in front of, we do live stream, people watch it, whatever. So I was trying to say, wash the dang dishes. But that's not what came out. Wash the dishes came out. But I didn't say that. So I said the word dang and right after it. So it sounded like.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So to this day.
That's the point though, right? When you're trying to say that word, like you get choked for half a second and then it sounds terrible.
It just sounds terrible.
Yeah.
But here's the problem with it. So we're live stream. So we have one of my deacons actually took the 3-second clip of that and he plays it to every visitor and person that walks into our church now. They're like, yeah, we're accepting church. Here's our pastor cussing.
Swearing on stage.
He plays it. So speaking of swearing, that's one of those things. But our church is like, they expect that kind of stuff. Like I think, not me swearing. Wait, let me run that back.
We can cut that part out.
They expect me just being who I am. Like I tell stories about my daughters and my son and my wife and everything when it comes to, because I feel like people relate better to real life. I feel like people, they understand when you talk about real life, it brings the scripture to life. Yeah. I met with this young man today who's trying to date my daughter and we had lunch. Yeah. This daughter, that daughter. Yeah, man. Yeah, bro. Yeah. We had that talk. I was like, don't end up on a t-shirt. So that talk, but, I was talking to him and I was telling him about, how I preach and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, I could tell you that heaven is real and Jesus is real and you may believe it. Right. Or I can say, hey, this is how I've seen God in real life. And I think that would make a bigger impact. And he was like, man, I never thought about it like that. And I was like, well, just stop and think about it. If I show you, hey, I'm a real person with real problems whose life is sort of kind of, we have hiccups sometimes. Yeah. But God shows up every single time. He's like, man, I never thought about it like that. And, going with that, and I know there's like a weird topic switch, but our church, we've gotten on this whole mental health thing, you know, and we've been talking about that a lot because I felt like for the longest of time, the church, when I was growing up, it was like pray your way through it type thing.
Yeah, tough it out.
Yeah, bro. It's like that. It don't work like that. And I experienced it. I had what's called stress-induced depression, man. I never knew that was a thing.
I didn't either.
And it was one of those things where I was trying to be successful at everything, and I felt like I was failing at everything. Right. And I remember, we had all these big contracts with our company and the church was growing and the family was doing good. And, everything was going right, man. But something inside of me felt like I was failing at everything. And I remember sitting in my car and I was like, dude, if tomorrow doesn't come, I'm cool with it, And
bad, huh?
Yeah, bro. It was that. Now, I didn't want to take my life or, stop my own tomorrow. But it was one of those moments where I finally realized like mental health is real and we need to talk about this thing, man. So I actually went before my church and I was talking to him about it, and we did a whole series on mental health and we talked about it. And people were coming up to me and they're like, thanks for bringing your story to us.
Yeah.
Because it showed us that we're not in this alone, that we're not marginalized.
Yeah.
And it helped me realize, I was like, dude, we got to do better as a church, just not even just mental health, just real life. Because sometimes we as pastors, man, we act like we are, like our life, we don't go through stuff. Like our life is all together.
We have to pretend, right? Because then people will think we're human.
Exactly. Exactly, man. I tell my congregation, I'm human all the time. You come to my house on the wrong day, bro, you don't know what you're going to see. So, I mean, or you catch me on the freeway on the wrong day, you don't know what you're going to. I mean, I told my church one day, I was like, I know many of you probably think I come to church listening to the newest like Maverick City song or Bethel or whatever. I was like, there's some mornings, man, I go to church, I'm listening to DMX, like, right, and they're like, what? And I'm like, I'm just being real with you. Like when I get here, I get into that mode, but there's some mornings where, I may turn on like, country music. Dalton Dover from Rockmart, real good friend of ours. He comes out, he's led worship at our church. I may cut his songs on, and they're like, man, hey, you're a pretty dope pastor, And maybe that's why we got a lot of young people at our church.
Maybe so.
They're like, oh yeah, this pastor's cool.
Just being real, though.
Yeah, but and I think that if we as pastors can get back to that, we'll start seeing like real people with real problems coming to the church looking for a real God. But it took me a minute to get to that place, a long time. But it started off with me swearing now, from the pulpit.
Right in the pulpit, man.
But I made a point. So it was so funny because that Sunday, man, I had all these parents come in. That sermon was for my kid. They needed to hear that this morning. I was like, yeah, you're welcome. But I didn't say it.
It was effective, right? It worked.
Exactly.
So apart from being a pastor, and I guess maybe before you were a pastor, you were a hip hop artist.
Yeah, man.
Are a hip hop artist.
I'm back in doing hip hop.
Yeah.
I was doing hip hop for the longest of time. I actually traveled and toured for years. We got to open for some cool people. We opened up for Andy Mineo, KB. We've opened up for Lecrae, Newsboys, just like some really dope people, man. And I was touring, and we toured down in Florida. We toured up north. We toured up all over the place. And then I started having kids, and I was like, this ain't for me. I need to be at home. And then I stayed at home, and I was like, I think I'm ready to get back on the road. So I got back on the road, started touring again. Yeah. And then I became a pastor, and I stepped away from it. And man, when I gave up music, I thought I was doing the right thing, but I felt like I lost a part of myself. Yeah. And my pastor friend or spiritual mentor came to me. He said, when God sent David to fight Goliath, he gave him multiple tools. He said, if God just sent him with a rock, it probably wouldn't have been as impactful if he didn't have a slingshot. And he was like, use all the tools that you got. So I've gotten back into music. We recently just hooked up with this ministry called Reasons for Hope. And we travel and we do these things called Equip Conferences. So we go there and we do a hip hop show, and I share a message. And dude, it's really dope. And we were traveling again. We're starting to sign artists now to the iDie family. Okay. So we just signed an artist.
Your name is iDie.
Yeah, I go by iDie. Okay. Yeah, Galatians 2:20, man. And we just signed an artist, YCK, Young Christ Kid. And he's from Gainesville, Georgia, man. Okay. And he's amazing. And me and my drummer, Dean, we travel. And my daughter, she's DJing for me. And we're getting back out there, bro.
That's awesome.
It's fun. I'm feeling my age, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Touring has got to get harder as you get older.
Ooh, brother, it's really hard. Yeah, now, man. It's it's so funny because when I was younger, like we toured in tour buses, and I was like, this is great, or we did the host home thing, then we did tour buses, and then we did hotels. And I feel like the older I got, the more I started disliking people. So I was like, bro, I can't do this hotel thing. That's tough. Like, because you're living in a hotel and then you're always packing up and going. So then we started staying in houses, which was like really cool. Yeah. Because you have your own space. And we would stay in Central Florida. And what we would do is if, say, for instance, someone booked us in Tampa, they would get us a hotel room and we would stay out there just for overnight. But it was cool, man. And music it's great, man. For me, I feel like I can write a sermon and behind the beat, and it's phenomenal, man. Yeah, yeah. And I'm able to reach young people, and it still keeps me cool and relevant, even though I got gray hair.
Do you know? Right. So, the stage light's just right there.
Yeah, I mean, it's great.
Do you know Jay? He's here local. He used to be, what was he? He was Lil Yelly.
Lil Yelly, no.
You guys got to get together.
Yeah,
I had him on a few episodes back, but I can make that happen.
Man, make it happen. I would love to, man.
He's a young guy. Jay's 16, 17.
What?
Yeah.
Man.
And he's out there doing it, same kind of thing you're talking about doing.
That's awesome, bro.
But he's a local guy here, but
Man,
I'll put you together.
Definitely do that, man. I want to help. And I think that's one of the reasons why God put me back into music is to help these younger artists. Because,
Yeah.
man, I'm not going to be the 50-year-old dude on stage jumping around trying to do hip-hop. I'm not going to be that guy.
Yeah.
Some people pull it off, but I don't like just for man, and I got a bad back. So
Yeah.
eventually I'm going to have to stop, bro. So, but I would love to help him and get him out there, man.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing, Young Christ Kid, is with the YCK is. Essentially, we signed him to like almost an artist development deal, and we want to help him get out there and do music because I've done it for so long, and I love doing it, man.
Yeah.
Love doing it, and I love getting on stages and just preaching the gospel and doing shows and all that kind of stuff. But I feel like eventually I'm gonna have to pass the torch along.
Well, I felt so bad for KJ52 a few years ago.
Yeah.
He got to the point where he realized that like people not calling him a 45-year-old white dude to come rap for them.
Exactly.
On the big stage.
Yeah.
He could still play in somebody's church or
Yeah.
a youth event, or whatever.
Yeah.
But he wasn't being invited to Winter Jam or one of any of the big concerts anymore. And that was and I think I did an episode about that, but it was tough to watch him go through that and that realization.
Yeah.
But I think the approach that you're taking is a whole different thing. You're trying to bring up the next generation.
Absolutely.
Which is what we should always be doing.
Man, absolutely.
That's what you call, what's the word for the discipleship?
Exactly. I'm just trying to live out what Jesus told me to do.
Yeah.
And I think, man, like a lot of artists, a lot of us seasoned artists, I like to say that. We're trying to do that.
Yeah.
Like Lecrae's doing it now, and and he's doing it like with like Halvey, and Andy's out there. He's helping push different artists and things like that. And I think that's what we need to do. Because God has given us a voice and He's given us a platform. And I don't want to just walk away from it.
Right.
But it is a harsh reality to reach that age or reach that place where no one's calling you,
Yeah.
And it's crazy because when we finally announced or we started doing shows again, we were getting calls, which was dope. And I don't expect to be like on the big stage. I don't, we've done that. It's been great.
Right.
I don't expect to do it again. And I want to push these younger guys to do that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And I can't, being a pastor, I have to be here on Sundays and,
makes it tough to play Saturday night even.
Man, yeah, it makes it extremely tough. And like even touring, I can't tour like I used to because, if my congregation calls me and they need me, I need to make sure that I'm available.
Right.
Granted, we have like pastors, support pastors and stuff, but I don't want to be that pastor where, I'm going to call Pastor Vince and he's going to send a support pastor to come.
Yeah.
I don't want to be that guy. So, but I do love doing music, man. I love it. It's really a passion for me, and I love writing new music, and I love trying to stay relevant. I love challenging myself, man.
Yeah.
Love challenging myself. I think the last song that I wrote, or one of the songs I'm writing right now, is about my dad. Actually, I'm writing an album called Church Hymnals and 808s. It's the album, but I have a song about my dad on there. And, my dad, he passed like shortly a few years after my brother passed. And me and my dad, we had a checkered relationship. And I wrote this song years ago. It's called Dear Dad, and it got a lot of radio play. And my dad heard it, and he actually called me. He was like, man, was that song about me? And I was like, well, not really, but it was about him,
Yeah.
But I felt like so bad because I heard like just like his voice when he asked me. And I was like, I can't say this. But then and I was younger at that point, but as I got older, man, I became a dad. My dad, he had his demons. He was an alcoholic, he used drugs. But when I got older and I became a dad, I realized that we don't do it perfect.
Yeah.
We drop the ball.
Yeah.
And just because the ball that he dropped is different than the ball that I dropped, we all drop the ball.
Right.
And God really convicted me, and I was like, you know what? All those years that I spent brewing hate for my dad, I missed time where I could be pouring Christ into my father,
Yeah.
And it really hit me. But on his deathbed, man, it was one of the things I think God gave me was I was able to share Christ with him and make sure that he had a relationship with Christ. And 2 days after we had that conversation was when things really started. He died of pulmonary fibrosis. And 2 days after that happened is when his O2 sats and things began to drop, man. But I was able to, number one, share Christ with him.
Yeah.
But number two, we had a lot of open conversations about things that happened and why he did things that he did. And it brought a lot of closure.
Yeah.
You know, it was so weird because we did a show at a water park down in Tampa, man, and there was thousands of people there, and I was on cloud nine, man. I came back and I was sitting in my office, and all of a sudden I get this phone call, hey, your dad is sick. And I was like, what the heck are you talking about? And they're like, you need to go. And I was like, no, I'm good. You know, and that's how much anger I had in my heart towards him.
Yeah.
But when I finally went, you know, I was able to, he was like, I want you to be my power of attorney. And I remember the next day I went back to my office, man, I just bawled and I cried to God. And I was like, why are you putting this on me? Like, what the world? And he was like, because you're going to be the person that shows him the love that I have for him. Because did he deserve it? Probably not. You know?
Do any of us deserve it?
We absolutely don't. But he was like, you're going to show it to him. And I did. And I think it was therapeutic for both of us.
Yeah.
So I got in the studio and I wrote this song, man, and it was dope, man. I enjoyed writing it because I think it cleared out a lot, and you know, and I've written other songs, you know. I wrote a song called The Return where I talk about where I've been and everything and all that kind of stuff, and I'm writing like some old school like churchy type sound stuff. So I'm trying to stay in my lane.
It's cool that there are people writing songs that tell stories.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we lost that at some point.
Yeah.
Like that's where rap came from.
Yeah,
and
man.
that's where country and rap were the same thing.
Yes, sir.
And people, I don't know if they realize that or not.
Yeah.
But then they both got away from that.
Yeah.
And then we're talking about how big our rims are and how much money we got. And
We're doing mumble rap. Where they like
mumble rap.
Yeah.
But it just get back to telling a story, man.
Yeah, man. Exactly, man.
That's what got it done. And
Exactly.
I mean, if you're going to share the gospel in music, that's the way it's got to be anyway.
It's got to be. It's definitely has to be. I tell guys I work with, and I told my drummer, I've told, you know, my manager, I refuse to write songs where finding the gospel is like finding the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
I just told my age. But anyway, so I refuse to write songs like that, man. I want the gospel to be like forefront. I want people, when they hear the music, to know that it's about Jesus. Because for a while, man, and when I was in the industry, like heavy, you know, one of the things that they would preach to you is don't shove Jesus in people's face.
Yeah.
You know, and now some of our new merch, like one of our new shirts says, no, I'm good. God's got me. Godfidence. The other one, big as day, says, you know, Jesus still saves. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to come back with a mindset of, we don't have time to like play and try to win a Grammy.
Yeah.
People need Jesus, man. And so if I'm going to come back, if God is going to open this door, people are going to get sick of hearing me talk about Jesus, but it's going to happen, man. It's going to happen. So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah.
So,
well, I know a lot of people, a lot of Christian artists want to be Christian artists because they can't write a song in it with cuss words because their mom's going to hear it, right?
Yeah.
But they don't want to get too far into the Jesus thing in case like a record deal presents itself, and then they don't want to be branded Christian, so they could jump over when the opportunity came. That's what it seemed like a lot of artists were doing.
And that happens, man. So when I was younger, man, I got offered a deal with Sony Red, Geffen Records, and you know, they sat down, and then I got a publishing deal with Doc Holliday. And they're like, we don't want you to be a non-Christian artist, but we don't want you to write about Jesus stuff. We want you to be a positive artist.
Yeah.
And I was young, bro. I was like, yeah, let's do it. And my mom was like, no. So I was like, you know, I was just, because for me, I was like, dude, it's the music, you know. But I actually talked to YCK the other day because right before he signed with us, somebody said, hey, let's go do the showcase. But they didn't want, same scenario. And I said, here's the reality. God opened up every door in your life to get you to this point. Why would you leave him at the door when you reach this point?
There you go.
And so my mom, you know, I thank God for her because she pulled me by the ear and said, no, we're good. And
get up, let's go home.
Yeah, man. And we've had other deals. We got a deal by Magic Johnson was about to sign us to a deal. His mom and him, they were about to start a record label called I.O. Christ Records. And we went up to Detroit and we performed there, and then Warner Music Group offered us a deal. And I always look back and I'm like, what if I would have taken those deals? And then one day I just finally stopped and I was like, man, I don't care about what ifs because I'm so happy at as to where God has me now, man.
Right.
I wouldn't change a thing. Some things I would change, a few things. But, for the most part, signing deals and stuff. Because I look at these artists, man. I know so many artists that have signed deals.
Yeah.
And they are stressed to the max.
Yeah.
And they're not happy.
And they're not who they were when they started.
And, man, I'm not trying to be that guy. I always want to be the guy where I can take my kids to Chuck E. Cheese and we be good,
Yeah.
I want to be the dude that's able to go to Chuck E. Cheese and climb up in the ball pit and have fun. I want to be that guy. So I'm happy where I'm at.
I got you. Good deal. Tango, where we at on time? Hour two.
Man.
How long you got?
Man, I got as much time as you want.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, what do you want to talk about now?
I don't know. I always say every time we sit down to do this, I think, man, I should ask him how long he wanted to talk. And I just never do.
Man, I'm here for the.
Told you we could talk about whatever you wanted and didn't not about anything you didn't want. And I still didn't get around to the time constraints. Not constraints.
I mean, restrictions.
What your restrictions might be. Because I'll be here until 10 o'clock tonight, I guess.
Man, I'm going fishing. I'll talk to you about it. I picked up fishing, bro.
Yeah.
And car collecting.
Okay.
I'm turning into that old guy.
I used to fish, and I've kind of gotten away from it. I need to get back into fishing.
You should. Man, listen, it is like the most
I've been busy being fishers of men, Vince.
I mean, forget fishers of men. They'll find Jesus on their own. Leave breadcrumbs to the cross. But, so fishing, the fishing is phenomenal, man. So we went to the creek the other day next to our church. And, man, I had such a blast. My daughter, Akira, she's 19. She doesn't like touching worms or fish. Or
worms, the fish.
So I caught this fish, and I hooked it, like, sideways, like, in its body. And I was like, how am I going to save this fish? So I was like, yeah, dude, I saved it. And then
we're not keeping these fish. You're just I get it.
No, I'm not trying to get parasite. But, we took it, and I put it back, and it was floating sideways. And I was like, that fish
murdered the fish.
Yeah, dude. So my little daughter looks at me and she goes, "You killed it, didn't you, Dad?" And I was like, "Nah, man, it's sleeping. It's sleeping on its side. Just let it take a nap. Let it." I thought I saved it. Man, it's not fine. I don't know what's up with that fish. It's just floating right along. But man, it's so relaxing. And I forgot how fun fishing was. And then I'm collecting football and basketball cards. And now my daughter calls me.
That's coming back, right?
Man, it is.
Like we did that in the 80s and 90s with shoeboxes. And
thank you, Danny.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It was a thing.
Yeah, you hear that? And Danny's cool.
We used to go to shows and conventions.
Thank you.
There'd be tables all the way around this convention room, and you're looking for George Brett's rookie card.
Man,
whatever.
And my wife said I was overreacting because I picked up like 1,000 cards last week.
That might have been a little much.
So, she has banned me from the card store. So I found this antique store where I can get like 12 cards for $1. And I found some decent cards.
Yeah.
I found like a Barry Sanders holographic card.
Oh.
I found like a bunch of Peyton Manning cards.
Yeah.
I found a couple Jordans, a couple Dennis Rodmans. But she's like, stop buying cards. So today I was like, can I buy one more card?
So you just got to be selective about which cards you're buying.
No, bro. Tomorrow I'm buying a box of 30 packs of cards. And I was like, I'll buy these and I'll be good for like a month, but I'll probably be good for like a day and a half.
So are you also selling them, trading them like we used to do back in the day?
My wife, bro. No, I'm not. No.
Okay.
No. I'm going to trade them. So, all right, this is cool. I like this. Now we don't want it from the past stuff. Now we're talking. I need some advice.
Roll it out there. We're talking about all aspects of life as it pertains to Christians.
So, Dr. Danny, this is what's happening.
All right.
So this kid, he doesn't even collect basketball cards, right? But here's what he's doing. He has 3 Jordan cards. 4. He has 4 that I want, right?
Okay.
Here's what he wants. He wants me to give him a box of 30 Fleer Ultra cards. They're from the 91, 93 era. He wants all of those for 2 cards.
For 2 Michael Jordan
cards.
I think that's fair.
No, Danny.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
It's Michael Jordan.
Man, I listen, I preach Jesus to him every week. I think he should just give them to me. I'm just going to pray that God smites him until he can't get
how that works at all.
But it might, I mean, I figured
Matter of fact, he might smite one of us. And
I'm just man. All right. Well, I'm debating it. I try to give him a Barry Sanders card. I got John Elway, Troy Aikman cards don't go for
How old is this kid?
He's like 13. You think I'd beat him up and just take it?
You probably could, but
Yeah.
I mean, if he doesn't know who Barry Sanders is,
But he
you know
does,
what I'm saying?
though.
Does
Like,
he
his
know?
dad's my associate youth pastor.
Okay,
So maybe I'll just tell his dad I'm going to fire him if his son doesn't give me the car.
that's it. That's the play.
That's it.
Just power play on.
Just be like, listen,
and
bro,
it's
you
not
know who I am.
violent, but it's like
Yeah.
passive aggressive.
I won't get arrested or anything if I do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
if that don't
beat
work.
the kid up. You can't do that.
I mean, I won't beat him up. What if I like walk by and shoulder bump him real
You just
hard?
goon him a little
Yeah,
bit.
and be like, give me the card, punk. And then I just hit him. So I'm going to get that Jordan card, Danny. And when I get it, I'm going to send you a picture of me holding that card. I'm not going to tell you how I got it, but I'm going to get the card.
Yes, it might be best. I don't want to be an accomplice after the fact. Or
I'll just be like,
whatever.
my buddy Danny, he knows jujitsu, and he says he's going to come
here we
and
go.
talk to you.
gonna have a
Danny
discussion.
Burnham, his church is at 409. That's what I'm going to do. But no, I picked up card collecting and things like that, man. Like I said, I'm that old guy now.
Yeah.
I still love doing music, but I love collecting cards and things.
You got to
like
have something else. That's what jiu-jitsu is for me.
Yeah.
And I don't get to do it nearly as much as I would like to.
Yeah.
But you got to have that thing
Yeah, man.
that you can do that you don't have to think about anything else.
Yeah, like absolutely nothing else. And that, for my kids love fishing. My son, he loves Pokemon or whatever. And my mom's like, get rid of those. The devil's in them. I'm like, it's just Pokemon.
Is it?
So,
I mean, is the devil really in your cards?
But my son, man, he loves Pokemon. And we're supposed to collect like cards together. My wife's like, no, it's yours. And I was like, I don't care. It is mine. So that's where we are. But I have that thing now because as a pastor, dude, you got to have that thing where you can separate yourself.
Yeah.
And just like shut everything off. My mom, she was like, that was so rude because we were at my daughter's graduation. She was like, and you're going to be like, Vince, that was horrible. But we were at my daughter's graduation and my mom was like, come pray with me for this lady. And I was like, I was like, I'm not Pastor Vince.
That's horrible.
I said, I'll pray from her from a distance. I was like,
I'm over here.
I was just trying to be dad today. I don't want to be,
man.
but that's my moment where I can just be like, and that's what I told my wife. I was like, man, I just shut everything off and I'm just here, just vibing, just enjoying my cards. And I was like, you need to sell. And I stopped telling my wife how much cars are worth because
you should definitely stop doing that.
Every time she's like, well, we gotta put an engine in our car, one of our vehicles. And she's like, we need an engine. I
and
was
you're
like,
buying cards.
well, you better pray about it because they're not. But she's like, you got a Larry Bird card and you got this card. And I was like, I'm going to keep it. She's like, for what? And I was like, because it's mine. Like,
to
that's,
have.
Yeah. So that's what we do. Oh, I just dropped your bike. But I said, that's what we do. So she doesn't get it. But I'm going to, I'm going to keep collecting cards, but that's where my life is.
It's
Music.
nostalgic at this point.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah,
like, I made Kool-Aid as a sermon illustration one time, and everybody got all weirded out because I put half a bag of sugar. It's like, that's how we do things. This is how we did it. That's how we did it back in the day. But then they all drank it. They're like, oh, this is so good. What's your recipe? I was like, I'm black. That's how. No, I'm just kidding. But that's going to be edited too.
So what you did was talk a big group of people into drinking some Kool-Aid.
Man.
We were talking about beforehand, you being accused of being a cult leader.
I mean, whatever.
And now we've brought the Kool-Aid in.
Next week, if I change my name to Jim, just ignore it. But we have, that's where I'm at, man. I'm trying to like just find things just to live life, And now my kids love fishing, so we're doing that and all that good stuff, man. But life is good and life is great, man.
We've reached a point in life. I don't think you're a couple years younger than me, but you get to a point where you're looking. You always look forward when you're younger. I can't wait until I can't wait till you get to where we are, and you're kind of looking both ways.
Bro, yeah.
And you go, what could I have done? What have I missed out on?
Yeah.
So then you're getting into fishing and baseball cards and all that stuff. And then you're looking at the end and you're like, well, how much time do I have left to do all this stuff that I didn't, man. So buy the baseball cards.
Yeah, thank you. You hear that, Randy? Buy the baseball cards. I'm about to die. Let me buy the baseball cards, okay? So my son actually, he's like, yeah, man, Dad, you're like 40 and a half or 41 and a half. And I was like, we don't do halves at my age.
No halves.
We soak in every single
rounding
age.
down.
Yeah, no, I'm not 40 and a half. I'm like, 40. Like my birthday's December 16th. My wife's like, tomorrow's your birthday. I was like, we're not talking about it. Today, it's not my birthday.
Today's not the birthday.
Today is December 15th. And this past year, my wife gave me COVID for my birthday. So I was
bless her heart. That's fantastic.
Like, man, this is awesome, bro. I'm going to be 41 and die. It's going to be great. So, but I didn't. I coached a basketball game because I'm a horrible human.
Yeah, somebody's got to do it.
I mean, somebody has to. And
you don't have an assistant coach in your rec league. You know, it's not like
he may be watching this, so I'm not gonna give my opinion. On
okay,
that. But he was a good coach. But no, the kids ran up to me and I was like, "Stay back," and they're like, "Why, coach? We want to get close. Stay back." I couldn't be like, "I got COVID." I was just like, "Stay back." But I was like 5 days in, or 5 or 6 days in, so I think I was good, man.
Probably weren't contagious anymore. I mean. Maybe not.
None of them got sick, so I figure, hey, we did something right.
There you go.
Did
you win the game?
Did we win that game? That was my birthday. Nope, we didn't win that game.
You lost while your dad had COVID.
No, it wasn't her team. It was my sister. They lost all their games. Her team did.
I was just you can't lose on your dad's birthday while he has COVID.
Oh, though. Man. They lost all the time, though. Her team did. It wasn't her fault.
Perfect record, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, the glass half empty philosophy. Yeah. They were horrible. They had
fun though, right? Like it was really fun.
No, we don't believe in participation trophies.
Fun to lose.
No. They weren't mad. My daughter is really good. She's a really good ball player. She's do ballet, and now she's a ball player, and she's about to go to college, and we're trying to decide if she's going to play ball in college. So, but my son's team, they were beast, man. They were good. I got a tech and lost us a game one time.
Oh, it happens.
Yeah, it happens to the best of us. So, but that's what I'm doing now, and I'm getting older. My kids are graduating. My daughter, there's a guy that wants to date her now, and
we might have to straighten this out.
Man, I tried, bro, but he loves Jesus, and he's a good kid.
Well, that's there's something to be said for that.
I tried to threaten him, but he was like, "If you kill me today, I go to heaven tomorrow." So. No, he didn't say that.
Yeah, but if he did, maybe that's what you're waiting on. That's the criteria.
Man, I'm just waiting.
When he says that, you can give him the green light.
Yeah, I'll be like, but he was like, this is what he got me with. All right, you ready? So he's like a smooth, operator, bro. He was like, so my daughter was too afraid to ask him to prom. It's like, a good dad. I said, hey, you want to go to prom with my daughter? But it was supposed to stop at prom. Like, it was like prom, stop. Like
just the one-off.
Yeah, like, just going about your life.
Right.
Go back to church, find Jesus, all that kind of stuff, So she told me that he liked it, that they liked each other or whatever. The way she presented was like, how do you like him? And I was like,
here we go.
Man,
here we go.
So he's real country, real cool kid.
Yeah.
But he calls me Daddy Carr, which is weird. Yeah, bro.
Okay, we gotta work past that.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
tough.
trying to work past it.
Yeah.
He told me today he needs to find a better nickname, and I was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea.
You can call me just about anything else
except for Daddy Carr, especially in public. It's strange.
Yeah,
but so she's about to date this guy, and the way he got me was she was like, when you text me about taking your daughter to prom, I was actually praying. And asking God,
come on.
Yeah, bro,
come on,
yeah, man, he hit me with that. I was praying and asking God if she should be my companion because I don't like dating. And I was like, bruh, but he got me though, because I couldn't call a guy he's a good guy, and I paid for his lunch. I was trying to be a nice guy, and I told him, I said, don't let this be your last meal. So no, just kidding. But we had a good lunch, and he's a good guy, man. I did tell him I don't mind rocking orange for my kids, so don't give me a reason to. And I did all the dad things.
Right.
And I told him just take his time. Let's not put any titles on it or anything.
Yeah, don't do that because that makes things
complicated.
Terrible. Yeah,
thank you. I try to tell them that. I'm telling
just
my
hang
daughter
out.
that.
Just hang out.
Yeah, just hang out forever.
Yeah,
don't ever.
At least until you're 30.
35.
35.
Yeah, 35. And then we'll talk about dating. Then you date till 45. By that time, I'll be dead. So I don't even care
it
what
won't
you
matter.
do. I mean, do whatever you got to do at that point. So yeah. But I've already decided if they get married, I'll be the one to object. I'll be that guy when he tries to take my daughter's hand.
Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Yeah, I'll speak loudly. Loudly.
Speak now and hold my peace.
Exactly. So that's gonna be me, man. But yeah, so I'm getting older, man. But it's cool. I like getting older, man.
I'm embracing it.
Yeah, bro.
I didn't think I would.
Stuff.
Yeah, I had a moment the night that I put my head on the pillow on the last day of my 39th year.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll be 40 tomorrow. But then I was like, I'm just going to spend an entire year like Mike Gundy,
Yeah.
yelling at people, going, "I'm a man, I'm 40."
Yeah,
and
bro.
I did that whole year. Anything came up at all, I was a man. I'm 40.
That's what I'm talking about.
So
bro.
you just embrace it.
I'm
right?
waiting for 60 so I can be like those old people just yell random crazy stuff, man. That I cannot wait for that day, bro.
And everybody's like, it's okay.
Yeah, he's old, bro. He's, just let it go. I'm gonna be that guy. They're gonna be like, "What do you want to eat?" I'm like, "Burger King!" Just like random stuff. So I can't wait, man. So that's been my life, man. But yeah. So life's going good, bro.
Good deal.
Life's going good.
So tell folks where they can find your church.
You can find us in Rockmart, Georgia, downtown Rockmart. We're at 200 South Marble Street, Rockmart, Georgia, 30153. Or you can watch us online. We're at North Church Rockmart, and that's where we are.
Where can people find iDie Music?
If you go to iDie Music on Facebook, I think our website's still up. It's been so long.
iDie Music on Facebook.
iDiemusic.com. We're actually going to release a lot of our old music on Apple Music so they can do that. And then we're going to start releasing our tour dates that we're going to be going on the road.
Cool, man. Good deal. Well, it has been fantastic talking to you.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
I hope you still have a job at your church after this.
God will open up another door. No, I'm just kidding. Don't fire me, North. I'm just playing.
Rena won't see this. Nobody will see it until after you get home.
Oh, cool.
So she'll let you back in for a couple of days at least.
Oh, man, we got a keypad deadbolt. I'm good.
Oh,
bro.
you're good to go.
I'm good.
All right.
It's a push come shove, I'll break a window. I'm on the papers. So,
well, it's been good, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me, Danny, man.
Yes, sir. We'll
Thank
do it
you.
again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
God bless you guys. We love you. See you next time. Thank you for watching Burnham Podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.